Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. I am Cassidy the Cardslinger, back with another video of Let's Look at Some Decks. Today I'm going to share with you my Lenormand deck collection. So it is very small, it is rather modest. I only have 5 decks to share because I only have 5 Lenormand decks in my collection, despite the fact that I use this system all the time. There's a very specific reason why I would say I have few. My collection is very functional. All of them are used. They're used well, and they all have their own place. But one of the main reasons why I don't buy more decks is because I have a very specific rule when it comes to the types of Lenormand decks that I am interested in buying. And that is, they must have, and this may fade, I may change my mind on this, but they must have a playing card inset on the cards directly. And the reason why is because before I started learning Lenormand, I had been working with this deck. It is Mildred Payne's Secret Pocket Oracle for a very long time. And it has a number of cards that are similar, like they are symbolically or exactly the same to the Lenormand system, and they don't have any playing card insets. So when I wanted to start learning the Lenormand system, I had already been reading playing cards at that time, so I really liked the idea of being able to use both the insets and the image. And when I see decks that don't have the actual inset on them, it just feels too oracular. Like it feels like I'm almost coming right back to just an oracle system, where I really like to use both the inset and the symbol in my readings. So a lot of decks you'll see, it might say like I have an 8 and a little heart. And I'm like, I want the picture. Give me that nice juicy inset. So without further ado, let's take a look at my collection, not in any particular order. This is the blue Owl Lenormand. The box is entirely beaten up because this was the deck that was living in my purse for a very long time, and I would take it with me everywhere, so of course it gets very beat up. But I'll just flip through a couple of the a couple of the cards here so you can see. But this is an absolutely beautiful deck. It's very clear, it's very crisp, it's quite snappy. I guess it's not the clearest artwork, but it's, I mean, I don't think it's fuzzy or blurry or anything. But this deck, I hope that this is focusing. There we go. This deck is absolutely beautiful, and I've used it for quite a few years now. It's been one of my main workhorse decks because, because it's been with me all the time. It's nice and small and compact. The box that it comes in is quite tiny. So this is the blue Owl Lenormand, and it's a great deck. I still use it a lot, but this one has been replaced as my carry around with me deck by this one as of late, because this has a very nice, look at that, a nice solid hard 2-part box, so it gives the cards a bit more protection, and it's not really that much bigger. The box size, I mean, it definitely is a little bigger if you're limited on space in your bag, so this is certainly still a smaller size to carry with you. But I do like the extra protection that this deck has around it. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this did come with a little guidebook, but it is all in German. So this is the Grand Tableau Lenormand by Los Scarabeo. And again, it is an absolutely beautiful deck. It comes with a nice little tiny guidebook here as well with some meanings in a few different languages. And this deck is beautiful. It's got these deeper sepia tones to it, as opposed to the last deck we were looking at there. That is on a nice white background, so you can see the difference there. But they're very similar in their style, right? It's got the big number, it has the large inset, and then it has the picture, the symbolic image at the bottom. So this deck has been one of my main workhorses. I only got it, within the last 5 months, I'll say. So I haven't had it very long, but I really like it. It is a great deck. And a big part of why I wanted to buy this deck is because of the key and the sun, because they are the only two cards in the deck that have a bright yellow background. So when you're laying a tableau, they just light up. They are, you know, the whole deck, all of the backgrounds are like a blue color, or they get a little bit darker gray in some of the cards. But these two are just, you can see the sun and you can see the key from your tableau a mile away. So I really like that aspect of it. But it is another very, very beautiful deck. I really like it. The insets, like the playing card inset, people are very ornate, like they're beautiful. So, and like there's a few differences, right, of reading these decks, but this isn't necessarily a comparison video. But, you know, here we have one mouse, whereas we also will often have like mice in some of the other cards. And the orientation of the birds, and I mean, the cards are going to be all a little bit different. In the other one, the dog was laying down. Here we have the dog standing. But yes, so that is the Grand Tableau Lenormand. Beautiful deck. I just got it on Amazon. It's very reasonably priced. I do believe I bought the Blue Owl originally off of Amazon as well, but I don't think it was like a Prime item. I don't know where it came from. So anyways, another one that has, in similarity, in box form, is this beautiful Ur-Lenormand. This is the original Game of Hope. It is so beautiful. I will never forget first opening and getting this deck because I used the term smitten, and smitten I was about this deck. It is my biggest Lenormand pack. Huge, beautiful, and it does come with this little guidebook here, and I don't believe any of it is in English. Yes, it is. There we go. It is in English at the back. So without further ado, let's take a look at this deck quickly. I will just compare the size, so just anyone is following along at home, let me grab just to show the size of these cards. So these two are, I believe, just about exactly the same. It is, the Blue Owl is just a tiny bit wider, and the Grand Tableau deck is just a little bit longer. But you know, they're both nice and small cards. You can see how big this one is. So if you're ever wanting to lay a Grand Tableau with this deck, you need a ton of space. I am usually either at my kitchen table or I am on the floor, somewhere where I can use a very large amount of space. So this deck is absolutely gorgeous. It is stunning. I love it very much. We don't have, like with the clouds and some of the other decks, you've got a clear dark side, light side. We don't see that here. And then here, this is very different because the fish are out of water on a platter, ready to be eaten, as opposed to the fish that we see often swimming around in the sea. But just a quick show, if you guys haven't seen this deck, I do believe yeah, this one is also available on Amazon. Very reasonable price, or your bookstore near you, hopefully. And it does have a nice big inset on it as well, which is great. It's got actually the two different insets, which this deck, I will say, reads very differently for that reason. If you are someone who works with insets in your Lenormand reading practice, you will perhaps find that you get a little bit of something extra when you are working with this deck. So it is beautiful. It is magnificent. I love this deck, but again, very different in its depictions of a lot of these cards. And we have the one bird sitting in a tree. So yeah, anyways, it's gorgeous. It's lovely. Highly recommend any of these decks I have because it's a small collection. They're all very well used, and I adore all of them. Pop that one back over here. Next up in my collection, the Maybe Lenormand. This, I would probably say is definitely my most client reading used deck. It's probably the one that I've worked with myself, I would say, the most as well. It is split into two, pardon me. So the Maybe Lenormand is a deck of 52 cards as opposed to 36. So when I put it away, I will often put my 36 on one side and then have the additional cards here in case I ever want to just work with the plain Lenormand system. And then I have these cards here if I ever choose to open that up. Comes with a really nice guidebook. It's got quite a lot to say. It's full color. It goes through each of the cards. And yeah, it's great. Again, we got a nice hard box. Very good size. So just keeping with my size comparisons here. So that is both yay size. And the cards are nice and small. Here's the size of the box. Let's not burn my cards. But yes, bigger boxes. Put my candle back. So the card size in comparison to these guys, again, all a very similar card size. So just a little bit bigger than our Blue Owl, and it will be a little bit bigger than this guy as well. And this one, again, the Grand Tableau Lenormand is a bit longer. So this deck, absolutely stunning, super snappy, very, very clear. So what I really like about this deck is the fact that it doesn't have these big elaborate backgrounds. It is not distracting in any way. It gives you your symbol, it gives you your playing card inset, and you are off to the races. This deck is everything you could need when you are starting your Lenormand journey, or if you are a seasoned Lenormand reader. It just depends, right? So there's a lot of decks out that, of course, I said I haven't bought because they don't have the playing card inset, but they are very lush and elaborate. They've got a lot of illustrated backgrounds and scenes, and I just haven't explored that in my own Lenormand practice as of yet. I have my riders out, so there we go. This rider versus this rider versus this rider. Again, this one's the Blue Owl. And, oh yeah, have I been showing the backs? Blue Owl looks like so. The Grand Tableau Lenormand has this back on it. Maybe Lenormand with a nice big eyeball. And I believe we saw this one. There we go. So, this, I mean, this is I don't know that I want to rank them in terms of my favorites, but this is certainly my most used. It is the clearest reader. It will get right to the point, exactly what you need to know. And I think that's largely just a function of the Lenormand system, but this deck in particular works like an absolute dream for me. I would like to get another copy of this because and then I'd also like to put it, if I could pick, if it came in a smaller box, this would definitely be the one I would carry with me because I'm just so in love with these cards. They are crisp and clean and nice. See here, we've got the fish that are actually swimming as opposed to the fish on a platter. So it makes a difference, as you find in your readings. So I didn't mean to flip all the way through these, but they're smaller decks, so it doesn't take all too long. But the Maybe Lenormand, this is by Ryan Edward, and it was featured in another video I did on my channel called Decks That Live on My Reading Table or something like that. And it does. It has its own slot along with the Playing Marseille that live very easily accessible because I use them all the time. And last, but by no means least, this is the Helium Poet Lenormand by Camellia Elias, and it is such a treat. Now this deck, I will say I've probably worked with least out of my collection, but only because I have made it for myself to be, or I've designated it to be a special occasion deck. This isn't, I've never used this as an everyday reader, but you absolutely could. I adore this deck so very much. We have the beautiful, very clear insets as well as the image down below. So largely black and white with a little bit of red accents on a number of the cards, but this deck is such a treat. I use my other decks more for everyday readings, everyday questions. When I come to this particular deck, and again, it's just the way I've designated it, I've got a bigger life question. I've got something deeper to talk about. I will normally have some sort of preparation element before pulling this deck out, like my other decks. And I try not to have anything in my reading practice that is a barrier to me pulling my cards out. So all of my other Lenormand decks, doesn't matter, you know, where I'm at, what I'm doing, I will pull them out and lay cards for any occasion. Versus this deck, it's like I will make a date. There will be a candle lit. I will probably be either home alone or working with the cards by myself. And we're about to get into something big and juicy when I have this deck out. But I adore this deck as well. In a very similar vein to the Maybe Lenormand, it gives you just what you need. You have your symbol, you have your inset, and you don't have any additional BS, any additional fluff or distraction from what you could possibly need to pull from the cards. So this is, I love the man card. Like, look at him. He's wonderful. So, fantastic deck. I love this one as well. And this deck is available on makeplayingcards.com. I can put a link below for these guys as well. And this came in this lovely little velvet bag. So I just keep that tucked in there like so. Oh, and for size comparison, that's, I guess, pretty similar in size to the others. Like, I mean, Lenormand decks tend to have a relatively standard size to them. They're not, by nature, largely big decks. I don't know. Actually, I have a very small collection, so I'm not sure. I know there are certainly ones out there that have much bigger cards, like the Game of Hope here, which is massive and beautiful and divine. So these are my Lenormand deck. This is my Lenormand deck collection, and these are my Lenormand decks. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below if you have any of these decks. If you have a recommendation for another Lenormand deck that meets my criteria of less is more. Just give me a nice clear symbol and we'll be on our way. And a nice big playing card inset. I imagine, like I said, I'll probably change my mind about this at some point in the near future because there's a lot of beautiful decks out there, but I may not. At the moment, it's a hard and fast rule to not buy a Lenormand deck that does not have a playing card inset. And it's nice because also it helps me to buy fewer decks, and that keeps my collection very functional and based on decks that I will work with and use for years to come. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Happy card slinging, and we'll see you at the next video.